Hi everyone, Cindy Squirrel here. Well, it's after Christmas. All the kids are gone, the grandkids are gone. House is sort of cleaned up, and now I'm hungry. And I'm gonna do a chili challenge. Now, chili is one of my favorites, um, especially in the wintertime. But this chili is for Blue Collar Homestead Chili 2021. And I think the deadline's January 15th. They extended it to a little bit into the new year because everybody's busy with Christmas. But I'm going to show you my chili recipe. And my recipe is just a basic chili recipe. I don't like overly hot, spicy stuff. And the spices I use, some people use oregano and cumin and that. And I find that if I add that, that's what you add to a spaghetti sauce. And then your chili tastes like a spaghetti sauce. And I want my chili not to taste like spaghetti. I want my chili to taste like chili. So I'll bring you on down here to my table here. Now I've already 1 pound of ground beef, and I love this little thing. This is an Epicure meat separator, and it just takes all the lumps out of it. I just love it. I just absolutely love it. So anyways, to the ground beef, I'm gonna add salt and pepper, of course, an onion, my garlic powder, and chili peppers. I sort of go by feel with how many chili peppers I'm going to put on in it. I taste it and, you know, add more. 1 can of diced tomatoes. Now, that is way too many kidney beans for me. So what I do is I use about half of the kidney beans, and then I put the rest in a Ziploc baggie and I freeze them for the next chili. Oh, that reminds me, I should look in the freezer and see if I already have that. Anyway, and I like mushrooms in mine. And product of Canada, I always look, make sure they don't come from somewhere else. And I like a can of Clark beans. This one's maple style, so it'll get a little bit of touch of maple. And I like, I don't know if you guys have ever used Tupperware, but these Tupperware containers, it shows you, where's a green pepper here? Green pepper, okay? So it says to put it on this setting or don't put it in one, okay? So then you adjust the lid to what the setting says, and oh my gosh, your green peppers last forever in the fridge. I could not believe the difference. I use these for strawberries, blueberries, carrots. So anyways, I'm gonna put 1 green pepper, and then the same here. I have a Tupperware container. Now celery is supposed to be kept no air. So I use this one. I think it's like a bread it was supposed to be, but it's also a Tupperware product. And this celery will keep for a month or more, and it won't be limp. So anyways, so I put a little bit of celery in there, some green peppers, and I will throw this all on, throw it on the wood stove to simmer all afternoon, and I'll come back because you need homemade bread with chili, right? Gotta. Okay, I just wanted to show everybody about half the kidney beans that were rinsed can of pork and beans, can of tomatoes, can of mushrooms, and now I've got the onion, green pepper, and the celery. I'm going to add that to the pot. There we go. Okay, now chili pepper. I usually start off with just like half a teaspoon, and then as you know, as they marry and it blends all day, I might add more. And the garlic powder. Don't want it too overly garlic, but stir that all up. Get all the vegetables, everything all mixed up. Now, if this isn't tomatoey enough, I could add maybe a can of tomato paste or tomato soup or another can of tomatoes, but I will let this simmer away on the wood stove and we will see what it needs when I come back. Okay, so with our chili, of course, you need some kind of a bread, so we're gonna make our own. This one's just gonna make a little small loaf, just enough for me. It's 1 cup of flour, half a teaspoon of yeast. I want to show you these teaspoons. These are Pampered Chef. Now this is the teaspoon one, and it slides. So I'm at half a teaspoon there, or 1/4 of a teaspoon, or 1/8 of a teaspoon. Isn't that so cool? So 1 spoon does all your teaspoons. There's a whole teaspoon. And then it comes in a set, so it has the tablespoon one too. So this is the Pampered Chef measuring spoons. So anyways, that was half a teaspoon of yeast. I'm gonna throw in half a teaspoon of sugar. Not sure what was in that sugar bowl there. 1/4 of a teaspoon of salt, 1 tablespoon of oil, and between 1/3 and 1/2 cup of warm water. So if you're going in milliliters, maybe 100. That's warm water. And we're just going to mix that all up. Just mix it all up, and if it goes nicely like that, then you don't have to add any more water or more. If it was too sticky, you would add more flour. That is good. We are just going to, okay, so take note of how big your dough is. Put it in a warm spot. I'm going to put it in my warming oven on my wood stove. Chili's there, simmering away. Bread's arising. When the bread is double the size, then it's ready for the next step. Keep it into a nice loaf here. Oh. Okay, now we're just going to put this on some parchment paper on a cookie sheet. And now this time we have to oil our saran wrap because it's actually going to be touching the bread, and we do want it to come off. Nothing worse than eating saran wrap. Okay, so just use your hand, spread that oil all over the saran wrap, and then just lay it on top of the loaf of bread. And now we're going to put it back in the warming oven or a warm place in your house. And we're going to let that rise again until it's double in bulk. And then it will be wonderful. Be back. Okay, so I've got the oven is preheated to 425. The loaf has doubled in size. Now I use a serrated edge knife. If you don't use serrated, it won't really cut into the dough. And I'm just gonna put some people use a razor blade. I don't have a razor blade. And I just make some marks in the loaf. I don't know why. But we're gonna pop that in the oven for 30 to 40 minutes. It's a fairly small loaf. Now the chili, I moved to the propane stove and it was too runny, so I'm reducing it by taking the lid off. If you keep the lid on, then it won't evaporate. So I want some of that liquid to evaporate, and it's cooking up nicely. I had to add a little bit more salt, but by the time the bread is ready, this should be ready. So here's the finished product for Blue Collar Homestead Chili 2021. Now, when my kids were little, I was 4 years old, I used to put macaroni in there and called it chili macaroni. And they just loved it like that. Now, doesn't that look yummy? And then I'll finish cutting up this small loaf of bread that I made. A little bit of butter. Oh, doesn't that smell good? Oh, this house smells so good. And there you go, the finished product.